Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today, Masechtas Bava Batra daf Ayin Tes. We're going to begin on Ayin Tes of an Aleph by the two dots, about 10 lines from the top. Machar Ashba, Machar Zivavuchu. So he said that if a person would sell his garbage heap, so included in that would also be the fertilizer. And the Mishnah continued to discuss other things that are included in sales. Tanan Hassam. So we learn over there in Masechtas Me'ilah in the third parak, Kol HaRoy LeMizbeach, anytime you have something which is fit for the Mizbeach, V'lo L'Berakabayis, but not for the upkeep. The Rashbam says, for example, Shor, Kesev, A's, Tamimim, for dealing with animals that potentially could become karbanos. So in that situation, those animals are considered to be Roy the Mizbeach, but not for Berakabayis. The Mahamatvis Tamimim Berakabayis Oiribase, because if you would be matvis a tamim animal for the sake of a berakabayis, that's wrong, because it's really should be fit to be able to be brought on the mizbech, so it's actually violated something. So therefore, it doesn't count. Therefore, it's considered to be lolo berakabayis, even though potentially you could do it. Kol hana gufan, says the Rashbam, royal mizbech, then royal kavshan bebinyan. So all these things are fit the mizbech, but they're not part of the upkeep or construction of the mizbech of the Beis Hamikdash. For that matter, the other way around, anything which is fit leberakabayis v'lo mizbech. For example, the Rashbam says zahav, kesef, avanim, mikadois, kiyat mehem, silver, gold, stones. So these are all precious stones. These are fit to be donated for the upkeep, but it's not obviously a carbon. V'lo mizbech, v'lo berakabayis, something which cannot be brought for either. And the Rashbam says, for example, chol, vina, morius, ashma, atzavim, grass, garbage heaps, cheese, milk, just to mention some of them. B'chol hani dekatani rishon choshev. So in this case of the Rashbam, he mentions the more choshev first. Okay, and therefore it says the Rashbam hilkach lo zuav zukatani is basically saying not only the first but even the next case. So not only the case where it's fit for the mizbeach, but even if something was only fit for the berakabayis, even something was not even fit for either of them, the din is memoal and behen, that there's a potential issue of me'ilah, and also that which is in it. Okay, now what exactly is this referring to? So ketzad. So hektish bor malayamayim. Let's say a person was matish a pit and it was already filled with water at the time that you did this, says the Rashbam. Kishihiktish, when you were makdish it, lo hisker el esabor. You only mentioned that you're being makdish the pit, but it's filled with water. Nonetheless, let's keep going. Ashbais, you're makdish only the ashba, but it's maleos zevel, it's filled with fertilizer. Shayvach, a dove cut malei yoinim, filled with birds, doves. Sada malei atzavim, you had a field that's filled with grass. Ila nasi paris, a tree which is laden with fruits. Again, you're makdish the tree, and there's fruits on it. Mo'alan behenu emasha b'seichen. So the din is, not only do you get mi'ila by you, since you're makdish these things, not only are you moil on the thing itself that you're makdish, but even the things that were on it. For example, again, the water, says the Rashbam, because ru'uyin l'berakabayis, lasos tit, because you can use the water to help make cement. V'lo mizbech, not the mizbech, the mayim muchunosin psuun l'nisach hamayim. This is possible for nisach hamayim because it was gathered water. It has to be water from the shiluach, from the special place. The gam in madichin baser hakarbanais el ba'amos hamayim shebazara. The only rinsing, so you could say, well, it's for the mizbech, but it's not true, because even when you rinse the meat, it comes from the amos hamayim, from this waterway in the azara. Anyway, so all these other cases, the din is that you moil it in masha b'seichen. Back in the Gemara, avol hikdish bor. Let's say you're makdish a pit and there was no water in it, and only after you're makdish it v'yachachach nismalei mayim, water got into it, or you're makdish ashba, but there was no zevel in it, v'yachach nismalei zevel, and only afterwards was zevel, after you're makdish it. And this is the same idea. Shoybach, you're makdish an empty dove cut. And then doves went in it. Yilan, you makdish an empty tree. Nasa, parents know some fruits grew on it. Nasa, sadam yachachach nismali at samim. Let's say you were makdish a field, then only afterwards grass grew on it. So mo'alin behen. So obviously you're going to be moil on the thing that you're a makdish, but the chiddush here is in mo'alin b'mashu b'soich and deber Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda holds not the things that it contains. Okay, let's slow down for a second. Look at this Rashbam. Iwan mali paris. We said it's low mizbech, low benekabayis. A tree filled with fruits have no benefit for the mizbech or the benekabayis. The labinyan l'chazu. You can't use it for building. Okay, so as we said, mo'alin behen, second wide line. Im nehen behen shavapruta gegain hetzniach fatza babor. If let's say you stuck something into a pit for safekeeping. Oh, hayrid sham chavias shomayim with karer. You went into this water to cool off. Achenim tolach fatza be'ilan. You hung something on this tree. Oh, nasin yayin b'shuvach. You put some of your own doves into this dove cut. Again, so again, you're going to also be moil on that. However, according to the Shita Rabbi Yehuda, when you're makdish it empty, and then only afterwards when you're not moil mashu b'saichan, and the Rashbam says the Sivil Rabbi Yehuda in moal begidulin. It must be, at least in this thought process, Rabbi Yehuda, there's no din on its growth. Dibisham groma, because it's only an element of grama, which is like an afterthought, if you will. Okay, we'll see if that's in fact what's going to hold up. Back in the Gemara, Rabbi Yosi Omer, Hamatis is the sada, if you're matish a field, the esa ilan, and a tree, then mo'alan behen ubigidulehen. So in this case, maybe he only disagrees with these two cases, we'll see, when it comes to a field or a tree in which these things potentially have growth. So therefore, not only is there a din me'ila, but also afterwards when these things do grow, like fruits on a tree or grass in a field, because it's considered geduli hektish, and apparently he holds that there is a din of me'ila begidulehen. So Tanya, Amar Rabbi, near in Rabbi Yehuda, I will side with Rabbi Yehuda's opinion that there's no din me'ila on the things that it contains. I will hold like him bebor b'shuvach when it comes to an empty pit, and then only water comes in, and a dove coat, and then birds come afterwards. However, I'm going to side more like Rabbi Yossi when it comes to a field and a tree, that even though there was no fruit or grass or vegetation there, nonetheless the din is that you will be moiled, there'll be in me'ila also on mashu b'soichan. So, what exactly are you talking about? Bishlama near and Rabbi Yehuda. I can understand when you say you agree to him regarding those things. Must be that therefore they argue about Sad and Elon. And you're saying that I think Sad and Elon makes a lot of sense, like Rabbi Yossi, that it should be included. So it's mashma based on that they argue by a pit and a shavach. That even in that case, you would say that when it comes to a born or shavach, the din would be that you would also be moil on the water or the birds that came later. But Rabbi Yossi, son of Elon Kaimer, he only mentioned those two cases, right? Even Rabbi Yossi agrees over there because there's no gidulin, there's no growth. It's just a bird flying into the dove cut afterwards, or water that's filled into this pit afterwards. But why would anyone say there would be moil there? Maybe he's just trying to elaborate on the words of Rabbi Yehuda. Maybe that's what it's referring to. I do not agree to the words of Rabbi Yehuda Basad B'Ilan. Why? Because since it's geduli hektish, therefore we should include the fruits and the vegetation. Basad B'Ilan Huda Enu Roya. It's mashma, he only doesn't see Rabbi Yehuda's opinion there. Sounds like he does agree more to Rabbi Yehuda's opinion by born shaybach, that we should not include the water or the birds. So this is how we're supposed to read the whole thing. Near and dear Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yosi, Babar B'Shavach. He's gonna side with him according to a born shavach. Shaf Rabbi Yosi Lonechol Kolavel B'Sad B'Yilon. He only argues when it comes to a field and a tree. When it comes to a born shavach, Hitaka will agree. So when it comes to a born shavach, we're saying maskana, there shouldn't be any machlokas. The whole machlokas is daf when it comes to a stud and ilan. Okay, Tanaban. Higdishan rekonen. Let's say you're makdish these things while they were empty. Then afterwards they get filled up, which sounds like the safe of what we just said. So mu'alan behen. So there's a mi'ila on the thing that you were makdish. Ve'ein mu'alan b'masha b'soichen. And there's no din mi'ila on the things that came afterwards. So it sounds a lot like this machlokas that we just said, whether or not there's a din mi'il on masha b'soichen that took place afterwards. So Omer Rabba machlokas b'sad mi'ilon, as we said before, maybe their whole machlokas is only going to come to a field and a tree. The Tanakh is savar like Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Shimon savar like Rabbi Yosi. Of a bor b'shovach divrei kol mu'an b'hem ve'ein mu'an b'masha b'soichen. And as we basically said before, that when it comes to the case of a pit, when it comes to the case of a shovach, that the din is there'll be only the meal on that, but not the water that came afterwards. So Rabbi says, Ve'ela hadasanya, that which we learned, hekdishin malayin, if you're a makdish it while it's full, mu'an behen b'masha b'soichen, not only the pit, but also the water, because at the time when you're makdish the pit, there was water in it. Rabbi Shimon machlef, Rabbi Shimon flipped it around. Rabbi Shimon flipped it around. Says the Rashbam, Hilchef shitasai del el. He flipped around the shitas. Gabi hagdishin rekonin. When it was originally empty, he said moalan b'masha b'saychen, v'hacha kamer ein moalan b'masha b'saychen. Mishum the milsa the temahi, he didn't understand it. He said the koshkin hacha habla meimer moalan b'hen b'masha b'saychen. Hilcha katani machlef. So he ended up flipping it around because otherwise it was difficult to understand how we could possibly understand these two different opinions, which seem that one should be a koshkin over the other. As we continue now to Ayin Tes Amud Beis. Now, Navi Ibasad Elon, if we're talking about a case, in fact, the whole case where there could potentially a discrepancy is definitely his of a field and a tree. That's where they argue. So my machlef, why is he flipping it around? Says Rashbam. My machlef koshkin hacha the moalan b'masha b'saychen. Actually, when it comes to Elon and Asada, it does make sense why, even though there was no fruits there, that you should still be a din me'ila on those fruits afterwards. The ikatarti, there's two things. It's gedule hektish, it's growth that came from hektish. V'gam hektish akol b'yachad. You're makdish everything. D'loy gara mamoicher. Okay, so ela iba bor v'shovach mukmasol says Rashbam. Ikla frushi tam machlakotan b'mulayin v'rikanin can mafarshal come on. Of a sod of Elon leiko mesav time amay machlef. Why would you flip it around? What's the big deal? It must be we're not talking about a case of sod of Elon. Olam around but machlokas bor v'shovach. Actually, the whole machlokas, when it was full or it's empty, is by a bor and a shovach. That's when we make this machlokas. Actually, no. When it comes to a case of an eel and a sada, everyone is going to agree that those fruits and everything that grew afterwards, the din will be that there's a din meal on that too. 1 second. If that's the case, we're saying that the whole machlokas is now babor v'shovach. So babor v'shovach b'reikana b'may pliki. How could you? What's the argument? Why would you think if it was empty then fill? Why would anyone possibly say when it comes to a shuvach and a bor that you're going to be also moil masha b'saychen? And then furthermore, if a malay b'may pligi, what would be the machlokas when you are makdish this shuvach or this bor filled with water or filled with birds? Why would anyone say that they're not included? So the Gemara answers like this: Barikanin, when it was empty, and then later, and you're matish, and then you filled it up later on with water. Pligi beputed around meir b'rabanan. The Tanakh Masavar Ula Kurabanan. Yamar ein adam machna dever shol ba'oilum. Over here, the reason why you're not makdish the water is because the dever shol ba'oilum. It's not something which is not here. Just like as the Rashbam points out, if a person says, I'm going to marry you, Amnashes Gayer, Amnashes Gairi, etc. So I'm not Jewish, but when I convert, I'm marrying you now on condition I'm going to convert. No, it's a davar shel ba'om. Haven't converted yet. So in that case, according to the Tanakhama, it doesn't work. So to over here, you can't be makdish the water. It's not here, so the water doesn't count afterwards. Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Shimon Savar, Rabbi Shimon Savar, Rabbi Meir says no, attack does work, and therefore over here should work also. And therefore the din is, even though at the time you were makdish the pit, it was empty, But since eventually water will go into it, you're also the water counts too, even though it's never shall go. I'll say 1 second. When does Rameir say this din that you could be makdish oilam is something could go in Paris dekel. We're talking about a tree in which there's no fruit, but everyone knows that this tree next month is going to end up growing fruit. It's an inevitable phenomenon, and therefore, because that's the case, the avida also, since it's something which is logical based on nature, it's going to happen on its own. So hani mi yemid also. When it comes to these other things, who says it's going to happen? To one condition that I convert. So I need to be able to find a beis din. I have to find a beis din that actually thinks that I should be able to convert. There's a lot of factors that may not happen. It's beyond my control. It's not something which is completely within my hands to be able to do. And therefore, in that situation, it's a little bit more challenging. But again, even though maybe for some reason Rameir holds even that case is a davar shel ba'olam, in this situation we're dealing with a pit with no water in it. So who says that water is going to fall from the heavens, and who says that birds are going to fly from one city to the next, come into your dovka? So maybe in that situation that wouldn't work. So Omer Rabbi no mishkachas l'b'mayim haboyim derech chatzerai labor. We have water that is pouring down. It's not in the pit yet, but the Rashbam says Shabor Asri b'makam midrain. There's a slant that the pit is on the bottom, and there is this diagonal slope, and water, as we often know, whenever it rains, and it rains somewhat often, the water is going to go down and go into this pit. The memel also labor, and therefore the truth is, it is something that can happen very frequently. So it's a case of the avidah also. Therefore, Rameir would hold it's a davar. You could be makdad davar shel ba'olam here because this pit having water is the avidah also. V'yonim habayim derech shavacho l'shavach. It's also you have basically birds that are nearby. Says Rashi hasamach hazeh the vadi avidi also yonim. They're definitely going to come. So therefore, that's not an issue. Okay. So therefore, taka, we could say that is the machlokas. Umalayim, so that is the case of it being empty. Umalayim b'mapligi. How is it possible you can have this machlokas? So again, it's a machlokas. If it was empty, not filled, whether you hold it, it can be makdav shalom. Now, how about if it was already filled and you're makdish it while it was already filled with water? So why wouldn't you say that the water is also part of the deal? So Malayim by my plea is Amarama, you're going to hit this bor stam. All you did was you're makdish just a pit. Now there was water in it. Right? You're makdish the dove cut, but you didn't say anything about anything else in it. Rabbi Lezer, Rav Shimon Kavua, he holds like his father. Diarmer Dunin din Gavoa medin hedget. You can learn Gavoa from the dinim of hedget. We'll see what that means in a second in the Rashbam. We'll see the first one's read the Gemara. Madin hedit mati omer beres vinaloch milos vinaloch. I could say that when I sold you something, it's ba'ayin ra moicher. I'm selling it to you begrudgingly. I don't want to have to sell you more than I want. I wish I didn't have to sell anything. I just need the money. So I'm not happy selling you these things. So I could say I sold you the pit. I didn't sell you the water. So I've din gavoa ber aktish my laktish. So you could say the same thing over here. That's the same din. That I only wanted to be makdish the pit, but not the water in the pit. Let's just finish this up. The Tanakama Sever ain't done in din gavoa din hedget. Okay, the din hedget. Okay, so let's look at this Rashbam first. Hamakdish es asada. If you're makdish a field, lo makdish el chorav hamurkov. We said you're only makdish this davar choshev, this choshev hamurkov, these grafted carob trees. Because that's like something but by itself. Ba'ayin ra makdish. When a person's makdish, even if he holds, there's actually a machlokes, even if you hold a moicher, ba'ayin ra moicher, maybe when it comes to hektish, you will still hold ba'ayin yafe makdish. But here there is actually an opinion over there that you even there ba'ayin ra makdish. Did done in din gavoa medin hedget. Hilchach. Ki heicha de hedin a moicher bor stam. You sell a pit. You're not selling the water either. So avdin gavoa, same thing. Umiyu, says the Rashbam, let's say there was no water there when you were makdish it. So kachi hamayim haboim le'acher mekan nonetheless, this is unbelievable. You actually would be makdish the water afterwards. Right, so it almost sounds like a little bit the opposite. But this is the whole point of why this seemed a little hard to understand. Because if the pit has water in it, no, the water wasn't included because I say hamakdish ba'ayin raw makdish. However, if I was first makdish the pit, and then afterwards the water went in, so maybe you could tackle whole you could be makdish davar shalom, and the water is included. But daita ho'akdishan, and your das wants to makdish the davar shalom zochel boy dayin. Leikum amar ayin raw. You can't say ayin raw because it's not there yet. Rabbanim pliyah has severe laid ba'ayin yafa makdish. Okay, back limar. It says elsewhere that if you sell a pit, you sell its water. So that's only a das yochid. Okay, let's stop there. We'll see a few questions. Question 5. Sada v'ilan shekdishan. A sada and an ilan, in which again there's the potential that those trees are going to grow fruit, and when it does grow fruit, maybe we say that the gidulin is hektish. Ha'im mo'alan begidulin. So it says like this, again by sada and ilan. Hekdishin milayin. This is the answer number 5. If you're makdish it, let's say a tree and already had fruits on it, then mo'alan begidulayin. That even the fruits are included. Hekdishin rekonin. If you're makdish it empty, then it's a pluk to tanoi. That's a machlokas. Number 6. Hikdish bor b'shovach mleim orikonim. But my kapigi kamifigi Rabbi Lezer Rav Shimon imleim b'mas shemataycha. So he said, when it comes to rekonim, there was an empty pit, and then water went into it afterwards. So the question is, can you be makdad davar shel ba'olam? That's the question. In this case of the avidi asu, it will come. Derech midram on a slope. Malayim, the machlokus is reading question 6. Im adam makdish ba'ayin yafehu makdish. When you makdish it, are you makdish it not just the pit but also the water? The hikdish behabor b'chol habor. Oh, ba'ayin ra makdish kamoy moicher. Just like when you sell something, could be ba'ayin ra moicher. So ayin ra makdish. The water is not included in the deal. Okay, let's maybe see a couple more questions. TA 3. Hikdish bor b'shuvach rikanin. Let's say a person was makdish bor and a shuvach, and it's empty, and then afterwards got filled up. So matai l'kulayama ein moalan b'masha b'taychan. Matai havi plukta umadu ein moalan machmas kinyan chatzer. Okay, that third question we didn't get. So this is the answer for TA3. So first of all, if it's deloy avidi asu, if it's something which is not going to happen, right? If there's just water, you're in the middle of the desert, no water's going to go in there. It may eventually happen, but it's not something which you're anticipating. So even a mayor would not agree that you can be makdad b'shabbat olam. However, b'avidid asu, if it's something which is avidid asu, that, for example, the water is on a slope, so in that case, everyone hold that then the talk be a machlokas. So again, everyone would hold the ein moal masha b'saychen if it's lo avidid asu. If it's avidid asu, it's a machlokas. And here's the last question: Madu ein moal machmas kinyan chatzer. Why not kinyan chatzer? So I didn't get this right, and I skipped this Rashbam somewhere over here. Deloy nisraba chatzer lehektish, because you cannot learn out the din of kinyan chatzer to the dinim of hektish. I'd love to be able to find this. Let's see if Rashbam says this. Repairs deco chavero. Repairs deco. Okay. I have to find this Rashbam. That's an important question. And again, the answer is the lo nisraba chatzer lehektish. Okay. All right. Ayin the Rashbam on that. Okay, I have to look into that. TB4. Halokech peris shuvach elu breichos mafriach kadesh lo yichrav hashubach. And that sounds like something we have not done yet. Adkan.